Welcome to the Uncontested Investing Show, presented by REI Inc. magazine and sponsored by RCN Capital. Each week, we focus on bringing you candid convos from the best in the biz. Here's your host, Tim Harridge.
Welcome to the Uncontested Investing Show, presented by REI Inc. magazine and sponsored by RCN Capital, where we have weekly convos with the best in the biz. I'm Tim Harridge. I'm your host, and with me today is Travis Johnson. Travis, how are you today?
Very good. Thanks for having me here.
Hey, man. So I know you from a mastermind, but why don't you just take a minute, tell the listener kind of a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm based out of Minneapolis and St. Paul area, or Minnesota. You might get a little bit of that in my accent here as I speak with you guys, as we get picked on for that, but that's all right. I have a background. I started investing in real estate since 2001 part-time. I went full-time in 2016, built my business up from the ground up essentially, and doing quite well at it, investing. And I do a lot of rural investing, and I also do a lot of the metropolitan, where all the other investors are basically at.
So I like to start these episodes with what I call the bottom line up front. When I was in the Marine Corps, where they always told us we had to tell the general the most important thing as soon as the briefing started in case he had to leave the room, right? So bottom line up front, Travis, take 2 minutes, talk to the listener about what you think the most important things that they need to be paying attention to or doing in today's market.
Sure. No, I think that's a pretty broad question, I would say, that you're asking me to answer, but I think I can best answer it in regards to interest rates have a huge play. Over the last almost 3 years, interest rates have been fantastically low, and you didn't really have to matter when you purchase a house. If you had on a contract and there was delay after delay, it didn't matter. The values kept going up. It was an easy extra payday. Now you have to pay more attention with interest rates going up. If you're buying a higher value house, you have to definitely pay attention to that. So the main point I would say is pay attention to interest rates, but also get out there and do stuff in regards to investing. Because right now, wholetailing, which we can dive more into the show on, is really working well and will continue to work very well in the very near future. And then I also have my little secret strategies on how to invest in the rural market.
So we're going to talk about wholetailing. We're going to talk about rural markets. I love the interest rate conversation. It's one of those things that obviously I'm always having. Yes. But let's go back. What is a wholetail?
Well, how I
your mind.
How I define wholetailing is actual wholesaling, and that's kind of where you get a property under contract with a motivated seller, let's say, and then you're going to find an investor that's going to want to buy that contract from you, kind of like on an assignment basis. So you're wholesaling it really from the motivated seller to the end cash buyer, and you're making a fee in between. But now on the wholetail, the tail side of it is retailing.
Got it.
So now if you take the retail side where you're selling it to the consumer, someone that's actually getting a bank loan typically for the property. So the property has to be in lendable condition. You know, all the safety issues are kind of taken off the table. You don't have a collapsing deck, that type of stuff is a good example. But it's basically move-in ready, other than it probably needs updates. That's a good way to look at it for wholetailing. But if you can do the actual wholetailing, eliminating the wholesaling part, but knowing that you're going to capitalize very fast on turning around, like you're wholesaling to a cash investor, but it's actually to an end user, the person that's going to cash you out on the retail end. You make huge margins on your deals.
So how does that work? Like, are you charging full price? Is there a discount? Like, what do you find the numbers look like?
Sure. Well, in the last 2 years, it's actually gone like through the roof, where what I thought was well over retail for a nice house, now that's what wholetailing was getting. Now the retail pricing is going even higher. So it's kind of backfilling. That's how it kind of works in regards to that. So for me, the better answer to that is just take, for example, a house all fixed up was worth $150,000. You know, it's move-in ready. The paint colors are neutral. The carpet's in, hardwood floors done, whatever it is. Everything's fine about the property, pretty much $150,000. Wholetailing it, I'm probably selling it for about $130,000, $140,000. Just a slight discount underneath, but you're not hardly doing any of the work on the inside.
So the nice thing is you're actually getting this thing on the public market, right?
MLS, absolutely. Yep.
Right. So some people that wholesale or assign properties, part of their problem is they can't really test the public market to get kind of maximum price, right?
Correct. You're going to have to take title to the property. There's no way around it.
And what do you find? Is this like an inner city thing? Is this a rural thing? Where do you find that this kind of strategy has the most bang for your buck?
Well, for me, I've been fortunate to even have it being very successful even in the rural markets. Currently doing that strategy a lot, actually. But I would say if you want the biggest return, heavy metropolitan areas where it's a dense population, you're gonna make insane numbers doing the wholetailing strategy.
That's just that's so interesting. And see, I didn't even know that there was rural property in Minnesota. But yeah. I'm from Texas, so it's like,
there's
to
a
me,
lot of rural area.
Is
yeah.
it? Is,
yeah.
So how long have you been doing this?
Full time since 2016, but investing part time since 2001.
What's been the best part about it for you?
The financial freedom, flexibility with family schedules, and that we have 4 young kids. And they're all, the oldest is 10, the youngest is 3. So being flexible with school schedules, getting everyone where they need to be. That's what provided for me. Allowed my wife, I started, like I said, full time in 2016. In 2018, my wife quit her job, joined me in the business. So we're all in, essentially.
So interesting you say that. I hear a lot of people say financial freedom. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
To me, it's not necessarily being wealthy. Yes, the goal is have wealth. That's the ultimate goal out of it. But the financial freedom to me is I get to do what I want when I want to do it. That's the definition to me.
So now we've got a lot to talk about today, but
sure.
What are some hot button things that you think we should cover? We've talked a little bit about wholesaling. We talked about wholetailing. I'm sorry. Yeah. We just kind of started to talk about financial freedom. What are some other things you think we should talk about today?
Well, again, I want to harp on the rural market. And the reason why is because there isn't as much competition. It almost doesn't exist in the rural market. I am picking up properties left and right with ease. No one's competing against me. Either the motivated seller is going to sell to me, or they're going to list with an agent or sit in that house. That's really their only options.
Right.
And that is nice, where I feel like I can box someone in, not trying to really technically take advantage of the situation, but in reality, if they're going to sell, it's, selfishly in business, if you have less competition, it's always better.
It makes perfect sense. So we'll talk a little bit about rural. We'll talk. I want to talk more about this wholetailing thing.
Sure.
I'd like to know kind of how you're running your contractors and kind of what burden or effort comes into that.
Sure.
I would like to know more about kind of the rising interest rate environment and how that's impacting you. And then I've really got to figure out what you're going to do with your financial freedom. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll make Travis answer some more questions.
Are you looking for fast funding for your next fix and flip? What about leverage for your next long-term rental or vacation rental? Need capital for a new construction project? Look no further. RCN Capital has you covered. As the leading nationwide lender for real estate investors, RCN Capital offers short-term and long-term financing solutions for your next investment property. RCN Capital takes a common-sense approach to your loan request, offering high leverages and low rates backed by superior customer service. Whether you're investing in single-family properties or multifamily properties across the U.S., RCN Capital has funding options for you with no hoops to jump through and quick closings in as little as 2 weeks. Ready to get a quote for your next investment property? Visit rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today. There is no fee to apply. Again, that's rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today.
Welcome back to the Uncontested Investing Show, presented by REI Magazine and sponsored by RCN Capital. I'm Tim Harridge. I'm joined by Travis today. Travis, we've got a lot to talk about, and we don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to dial all the way back. So you're in the business.
Yeah.
How do you find houses to buy?
Sure. I have a lot of different marketing strategies that I'm deploying, but also, to be fair, if you're new to investing, don't feel overwhelmed with everything I'm throwing out at you. You got to start somewhere. And where I started was driving for dollars. That's how I started off doing it. And I did it the old fashioned way. I didn't use the apps that are out there, writing it down, do the courthouse records, that type of stuff, do the mailing. But it worked. It was better than doing nothing, right? To break down the barrier. But after I kind of graduated from driving for dollars, then I went into direct mail, because that kind of went into driving for dollars, you had to send a mail anyways to get their attention. So from then ultimately direct mail, I went into, in addition to pay-per-click, which is Google, working on SEO, like a Carrot website is great. That's what I use as a Carrot website for my business.
And so those that don't know, a Carrot website, you're not talking about like a piece of, like a vegetable, like what is a Carrot website?
Carrot.com, they're specialized, their websites for real estate investors and also agents, if you're on that part of the arm. But for investing wise, it's definitely geared towards real estate investors, carrot.com. Perfect templates, makes you look like an expert in your market right off the bat. And they design everything. You pretty much just pay the monthly fee and they'll take care of it.
Yeah, and I've used them before in my house buying business. I mean, I highly recommend them. I don't use them anymore because I am a web geek, right? So I actually have my own WordPress and I do it all myself. But
perfect, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. But Carrot is probably the largest template.
I believe it is.
Website for real estate investors. All right, so great. So pay-per-click, Carrot, keep going.
Yeah, I was also, because the Carrot is kind of what I call the SEO portion. Where you're just going to be found on the internet when someone goes on commonly Google. They can do Yahoo, Bing, all those things, but let's just face it, Google is really going to be the #1 search engine.
Now I know you're from Minnesota. You said Yahoo.
Yeah.
That's Yahoo down here.
But I also do Facebook marketing at the same time, but I also I have radio going and I also have TV going.
TV?
Yeah.
That can't be cheap.
It's affordable. Let's put it that way.
So let's talk about that. I know we want to talk about rule and interest rates, some other things, but how do you decide in your business what is affordable or profitable, or like talk just kind of as an entrepreneur who's been doing this for 10 years, like what is that decision process like?
Sure. It really comes down to cost per lead.
Is there math involved?
Yeah. I think it's very basic math. It's how much you spend, how many leads you got, divide it by 2, and that's your lead cost. That's essentially what it comes down to. And you obviously want the cheapest lead flow cost to you, but you also want quality leads. Right. Because I can also dig up a ton of leads, if you want to call them that, right? Leads for under $10 a lead, but you're not ever going to buy that house. So you really want something with a little bit of pain behind the motivation. And TV is by far for me is my best results.
Really?
Yes, by far.
So TV, radio, direct mail, driving for dollars, if you had to pick 2 where you're at now in your business, which 2 do you pick?
The 2 that are performing best for me, I shouldn't really say this for my competition, but I will anyways. It is TV and SEO. Those are by far my best.
Excellent. So in a market like Dallas, where I buy with my company, DFW Investors, like SEO is probably the most competitive thing. Absolutely. I mean, the pay-per-click down here, you're paying $400 or $500 per lead. And so it's very interesting, very interesting. All right. So we get these people to call, and then what? We take every penny they have and take advantage of them, put them in the poorhouse. What happens there?
No. Well, if you want to get in a lot of trouble, go ahead and do exactly that. Because in my state and most states I'm a wolf and the seller's the sheep. Right. So apply yourself in your situation. If your mom or dad or grandma or grandpa was sitting across the table from the person you're about ready to maybe lowball an offer or take advantage because the situation allowed you to, how would that make you feel? Right. It shouldn't make you feel pretty shitty, right? Yeah. So hence don't do it. It's also called karma's a bitch.
Yeah, it is.
And I would just say, and I live by the karma rule. Don't do unto others what you wouldn't do unto yourself type of thing. And if you live by that model, the universe will make you whole. In my opinion, type of thing.
And I found most successful investors view it that way exactly. All right, so we buy a house from Aunt Mary, and the next thing we have to decide, you said earlier, is an exit strategy. Correct. So talk about some of the different exit strategies that you use and how you pick which one and when.
Sure. No, that's very valid. In a perfect world, I always want to go in with the mindset that I'm fixing and flipping, so that I'm buying on the correct numbers. So let's say any other strategy I'm about ready to share with you that I would also potentially do. Let's say any of those strategies are about ready to fail. The fix and flip will bail you out because you bought on the proper numbers. What you're going to do, worst case is you're going to actually fix and flip it. But if you're fortunate enough to buy at the fix and flip numbers, but do a different strategy to exit, maybe you want to do seller financing on a portion of your deal. You might want to do the rent to own or lease option. Those are almost one of the same in my market. I like to stick with wholetailing because that is by far the best return on investment that you can get. I mean, we're talking my average paydays that I get on most of my contracts are above $50,000.
Wow.
And I'm normally in and out of that property under 2 months from the time I buy it to the time the money's in my bank account.
So let's back up. The average payday is above 50 right now.
Yes.
When you first got started, what was the average payday?
Oh, and it wasn't wholetailing. Wholetailing wasn't really existent at the time. I was feeling pretty good when I was making about 25, 26,000, honestly. But it also took me about 4.5 months just to earn that much.
Right.
So
that's 6,000 a month. It's not.
It's not. You got to do a couple deals in a month just to make it a viable business.
Right.
If you're doing it full time like we are. So absolutely.
So what's the most you've ever lost or the least you've made on one house?
Sure. The most I lost, round figures is the best way to do it, is roughly $8,000.
Right.
So fortunate that way. And that's net loss on paper. Loss of opportunity, I would say closer to 60,000, because if things happened the way they were supposed to on the deal, I should have had a way bigger payday. But since that got eliminated, I ended up taking a loss. I had a couple of them. One was 8,000, another one was 6,000. And the smallest profit I made was $300 on a deal. But hey, it's better than going backwards.
Yeah. So I have lost more than 100,000 on a house. Okay. And
it doesn't make you feel good, but it's all about getting back up and doing it again. And when you take that loss, that should make you still humble, know that this business is real. But if you treat it like a serious business that it is, you should do just fine. If you're not losing occasionally, you're not being aggressive enough on your buying. Especially if you're a little more seasoned, is the better way for me to explain it. If you're brand new out of the box, I'm not asking you to be so aggressive, because you're probably going to make a mistake and maybe did the formula wrong on calculating what you should have offered. And I want to see the first person to lose money and drop out where they could have been a bigger success. I say, let's say 5 deals at least under your belt. You should start to get a little more aggressive. And if you're not making occasionally only 1,000 or 2,000 on some of these flips, I'm not saying that's what you want, but if you get that, then you're being aggressive enough. But occasion one's going to come up and bite you.
Yeah, because as a lender, we call it credit loss, right? Like you have to budget for something to go wrong, because eventually it will. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, you really have to look at, are you being too strict and stringent? Are you paralysis by analysis, right? Are you stopping success? You talked about taking the business or treating it like a business.
Yes.
For about a minute, talk about some of the things that you do in order to make that happen, but also maybe some things that you did, and looking back, you're like, I wasn't treating this like a business.
Well, I know from day one when I went full time, I was treating it in my head like it was a business. But I started off from home. That's, I think, where everyone does. Hey, overhead's low. You're already at your home. I kind of had crappy internet. I live out in the rural area, so I didn't have that really going in favor. So pictures and all that stuff in our business, I mean, you die on internet speed that I was on. So I was like, that's a huge drawback in my business getting off the ground. The other part is working from home. You're exposed to TV, exposed to projects that you can take on. So meaning the shiny object syndrome is that we all got. I feel like I got a touch of HDD. You know what I'm getting at. ADD. See, even that I can't even say right, because that's all over the place. But the moral of that point of the story is that I think we're just programmed different as investors and entrepreneurs, that we're always looking for the next thing that's going to help us, elevate our business to the next level. So being exposed to the home environment, I thought I was being disciplined. Internet's kind of slow, so then I get busy doing other projects at home, and it's like, if I'm going to actually put food on the table, I got to treat it right. So I went out and got an office space because I figured, hey, two birds, one stone. I can get some exposure. I purposely rented a building right on the corner of a busy intersection. It cost me $1,000 a month, and I figured, hey, that's advertising dollars in my mind. Essentially, is if I can go ahead and snag one deal total out of that whole year, the 1 year lease, it would be well worth the $12,000 that lease was going to cost.
If you're making $50,000.
Yeah. Well, of course, at the time that would have been about 26.
Even 20, you still double your money, right?
Still would have made it, but that's assuming one deal. But then that's free rent. But I got better internet, but I also stayed focused because I went up and treated it like a job. I left home, I went to work and did what I had to do at my job to run the business. And then at the end of the day, go back home. It was no different than going to your 9 to 5, except you got the perks that you get with yourself, but you got to be disciplined. So that's how I treated it more like a business. I went out and got an office space, desk, all that type of stuff. So.
Well, that's great, man. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have the money minute and then a rapid fire section.
Sure.
So stick around.
Are you looking for fast funding for your next fix and flip? What about leverage for your next long-term rental or vacation rental? Need capital for a new construction project? Look no further. RCN Capital has you covered. As the leading nationwide lender for real estate investors, RCN Capital offers short-term and long-term financing solutions for your next investment property. RCN Capital takes a common-sense approach to your loan request, offering high leverages and low rates backed by superior customer service. Whether you're investing in single-family properties or multifamily properties across the U.S., RCN Capital has funding options for you with no hoops to jump through and quick closings in as little as 2 weeks. Ready to get a quote for your next investment property? Visit rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today. There is no fee to apply. Again, that's rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today.
Welcome back, everybody. It is time for the Money Minute. Travis, the Money Minute. Imagine there's an investor out there.
Yes.
And they're only going to listen to 60 seconds of advice or information all week.
Okay.
We need 60 seconds of your best wisdom, and I'm going to start a timer. 60 seconds of the best juice you got to help someone make more money as a real estate investor.
Treat it like a serious business, and what I basically mean, let's just assume you have no money at all to your name. Do driving for dollars. Guaranteed the best return on investment if you're a new investor with no money in your pocket. Doing the driving for dollars, that will put you in contact with more motivated sellers than what you need to, what you would ultimately need to know what to do with. So if you can contact 100 houses just driving around and getting those contact people that you need to market to, at that point in time, you're going to be able to be very successful, because it only takes about 1,000 houses, which a lot of people mind blows. 1,000 houses, no way. You can easily accomplish that in under 1 week. Get 1,000 houses and then market to that person. You will have a very high chance of actually snagging a motivated seller, and that motivated seller using the wholetailing strategy will almost guarantee you $30,000 to $50,000 profit.
Driving for dollars, then wholetail it, 30 to 50 grand. Get out and do it today.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's the Money Minute. Now, rapid fire. You've said a lot of things.
Okay.
I'm just going to give you a lot of questions.
Sure.
And I want you to just, at the top of the mind, answer. Real estate market. A lot of people say we're in a bubble. Are we in a bubble?
I don't feel we are not in a bubble.
Why?
The main thing is there's not enough houses for the amount of buyers out there.
That's right. I agree. So inventory is a huge issue. Do you see a lot of building going on up in your market?
Not as much as there needs to be. So definitely a massive shortage.
How many would they have to build, do you think? Like twice as many, 5 times as many, 10 times as many?
My market or US?
You.
In our market, I would say they would have to build close to at least another 500,000 units in this next year to even put a dent in it. And there's no way that's going to happen. They're not issuing building permits fast enough.
Do you think we ever have another financial crisis driven by real estate loans?
From loans currently, if the same structure that we have in place right now, absolutely not.
I completely agree. Real estate investing, kind of a unregulated wild, wild west in many states, in many markets. Do you think we need more regulation or not?
I'm not a big fan of big government, so I would always lean towards no. But if there's going to be anything, I think wholesaling could have some regulations put on place, maybe have a limited license, so they have to do like a little bit of training with the state or something like that, where a real estate agent might need 90 hours to get their license, and maybe a wholesaler only needs 30, so they get a kind of little rounded idea of how the business works.
Right.
Because I think they tarnish us as professional investors when they don't know what the hell they're doing, and they leave the seller high and dry and don't actually close on the property. That gives everyone a bad name.
All right. What did you do before you did this full time?
I was my last job title when I left the business corporate world was operations manager for a business telecom company.
If you had it to do over again, would you still quit the job when you quit and go do this full time?
Absolutely. I kind of wish I did it sooner.
Okay. You wish you'd have done it sooner. There's a lot of people that say that they wish they had waited. Biggest challenge you face as a real estate investor?
If you're doing the fix and flip strategy, in this current climate that we're in with the kind of the boom in the real estate, getting contractors out to the properties to work on them, the general handyman ones, they're so hard to forecast so far in advance to get them on the schedule by the time you buy a property, get them out there to do the bid where they can actually show up the job and start doing it. So I would say the biggest challenge for me for fix and flip, if that's the mindset that you're going to dive into real estate, is getting that contractor.
Do the hedge funds own all the houses?
Not yet.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Will they own all the houses?
I think not all of them. I know that's a pretty broad brush that you're throwing out there, but I think will they own a large chunks of large major metropolitan areas? I feel like at the rate they're going, if they're not regulated, yes.
Is that bad?
No, I think it's a capitalist system.
Where is the best opportunity in the real estate market right now? I mean, what segment of the business, what location?
Yeah, I would say obviously anything that's up and coming, but always be in the first-time home buyer range in any part of any area that you're going to invest in. If you're always investing in the first-time home buyer bracket or the next move-up house price range, for example, in my market, sadly, the first-time home buyer is $200,000 now. And now the move-up one is between $250,000 and just shy of $300,000. That would be the next up house. So if you could stay below those numbers on anything you buy, and I'm talking ARV, after repair value numbers,
right.
If you stay below that, I really don't care what happens to the interest rates. People are going to need to live in houses. People will need to buy properties. Hedge funds will need to buy properties. Someone's going to buy these properties to put people in them.
Food, water, shelter, right?
Absolutely.
You got to have a place to live. We can't have 100 million people going homeless in America, right?
Simple
Inflation.
math.
Is it 6%, 20%? What's it impacting the most in your business?
Well, fuel right now is huge, because I do a lot of commuting to look at properties.
Well, if you're at rural, right? By definition, it's way out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. I'm spending sometimes an hour and a half to 2 hours one way to get to a property. But if the math adds up, I'm more than ecstatic that if I go to the property normally 3 times out in a rural area from the time I buy it to the time I sell it, 3 times. And if I can make a minimum in a rural area, 20 grand, best return on investment.
There you go. So real quick, I did not know that I was in front of a famous author earlier.
Sure.
You have a book here, 7-Figure Flipping.
Yes.
How you can build a highly profitable real estate flipping business in 12 months or less. Written by Travis Johnson, forward by Monica Main. First off, who's Monica Main?
She's a gal that she actually does a lot of apartment investing. So I kind of came across her because I was learning apartment investing. And then I realized she did marketing and I was like, hey, I'm interested in doing this stuff. And then she was fascinated that I was a flipper. So it was kind of a match made in heaven.
I think it's neat that you're trying to share experiences and help people. Where can they get this book?
Sure. The simplest way is just go out to the website, 7figureflippingbook.com. That's available. You just go on there. You just pay shipping. I'll go ahead and send the book out. I won't charge you for the book. Just go ahead and pay for the shipping. This will get you started. This is a very well-rounded book. This is going to take anyone from A to Z, a roadmap. If you're a linear thinker like I am, you're going to love this book because it's kind of step by step. It really helps you educate about real estate. But at the same time, it also has some advanced strategies for some people that have already dabbled in, but looking for some new ideas.
Do I get an autographed copy?
Sure.
Yes. I will add this to my library. I will have my children read it. Travis, we are just about out of time. How can the audience connect with you? Facebook, Instagram, what do we got?
Yeah, I'm not as big as I should be on those sites. So I'm Facebook, and then I'm just as simple as call my office or send me an email type of thing. If you want to communicate with me, obviously you can also start the whole process just by ordering the book. And like I said, just pay for the shipping. It's basically $10 for the shipping. I send it out to you and we'll start our relationship at that point.
We got free training with Travis.com.
Yep.
I guess you do some real estate training?
Exactly. Yep. And that's if someone wants to bring up their game a little bit more. And, and once they read the book and realize I'm not full of crap and it sounds like I know what I'm doing, there's going to be people that relate. They'll understand how I speak, how I communicate in the book. I'm no different, obviously, than how you hear me on the podcast. If you feel like you could relate to me, I can further your training. And the training is really customized. Basically, instead of me saying, this is what I offer, you tell me what you need, and I will go ahead and form a custom training package for you. And that's how we get our journey started.
Very nice. What's your phone number?
My office phone number is 763 area code 742-1500.
And the email?
Sure. Email me direct at travis@fastresultsllc.com.
All right. Well, great. Well, Travis, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. It was good spending the week with you at the Investor Fuel Mastermind. Folks, that's about it for our time today. I just want to remind you that your network is your net worth, and today you grew both. So thanks for stopping by. Tim Harridge. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Uncontested Investing Show. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time. The preceding program is furnished by RCN Capital LLC. The information provided is for general education purposes only and does not constitute any legal, financial, investment, or other professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed of any speaker are the speaker's own opinion and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of RCN Capital LLC. No information contained in this episode should be construed as financial, investment, or legal advice from RCN or any individual, author, host, or guest. You should always consult a financial advisor before investing.